Welcome to the third of our class's films on grammar, style, and academic writing generally. This episode will cover two principles of style that exist in tension, the principle of populated prose and the manipulation of sentence rhythm. You should have a pen and paper handy to take notes so that you don't have to watch the episode over again in order to complete the assignment or study for the exam. Just a heads up, you should watch these videos in sequence to be sure that you understand the terms being used. Okay. The principle of populated prose is designed to make your sentences tight and interesting to your reader. It operates on the assumption that the subject-predicate connection is the heartbeat of the sentence, and that heartbeat should be as strong as it possibly can be. How can you make the subject-predicate pairing strong? On the subject side, the idea is to select human or concrete subjects. Something is concrete when we can experience it with our senses. Grass, plaster, sunlight, and garbage are all concrete. Something is abstract when we can understand it only mentally. Love, justice, and power are all abstract. That doesn't mean that love, justice, and power aren't real, we just can't experience them as sense objects. Some subjects are so abstract it's impossible to see them at all. There and it are particularly thin. If we make the subjects of our sentences concrete, then our readers can immediately see or feel what's going on and they stay grounded. Human subjects are concrete, and they have an added bonus, because we naturally are interested in what other humans do. Moreover, humans are capable of all kinds of interesting verbs. They can conspire, revolt, exalt, abandon, while love can only be or shrink or grow. It and there are really limited verb-wise. This leads to the predicate half of populated prose. There are so many strong, specific verbs out there: distinguish, resemble, eradicate, suffer, solve, install, evoke, express, on and on. Abstractions tend to connect with weaker verbs like is, was, or has, and so by privileging concrete or human subjects we tend to get muscular verbs. So populated prose is about concrete human subjects and strong verbs. It makes for some great attention-grabbing prose. Check out these examples by Toni Morrison and Yusef Komunyakaa. One road, shaded by beeches, oaks, maples, and chestnuts, connected it to the valley. The beeches are gone now, and so are the pear trees where children sat and yelled down through the blossoms to passers-by. They are going to raise the time-and-a-half pool hall, where feet in long tan shoes once pointed down from chair rungs. A steel ball will knock to dust Irene's Palace of Cosmetology, where women used to lean their heads back on sink trays and doze while Irene lathered new Nile into their hair. Men in khaki work clothes will pry loose the slats of Reba's grill, where the owner cooked in her hat because she couldn't remember the ingredients without it. Look at these subjects, these verbs. You might think that this is only for fiction, but take a look at Yusef Komunyakaa's academic prose. When we analyze and weigh the most innovative voices of the Harlem Renaissance, Langston Hughes remains at the axis. Where Countee Cullen and Claude McKay embraced the archaism of the Keatsian ode and the Elizabethan sonnet respectively, Hughes grafted onto his modernist vision traditional blues, as well as the Chicago Renaissance. So as other voices grew silent during the Great Depression of 1929, the 1930s found a prolific Hughes. These sentences follow the populated prose principle: concrete or human subjects and strong, precise verbs. So this is the secret to all good writing, right? Well, there's good news and bad news. Populated prose tends to make the beginnings of sentences very strong by catching our mental attention with the concrete and specific. However, as I mentioned in the first lesson, sentence rhythm naturally involves in-focus. What does this mean? At the level of rhythm, the subject of a sentence will usually be a valley or low peak of stress. The prominent peak of stress will occur in the predicate, generally on the last or next to last slot in the sentence. This is what linguists call in-focus, and the fact that it exists means that anchoring our sentences in concrete verbs will only push some mental buttons, and good writing pushes all the buttons. Read these sentences out loud to yourself and see where you put the most stress. Hopefully you found what most people find. Sentences have a bulge of stress towards the end. One of the most important aspects of your expertise with sentences is your sense of rhythm. Therefore, I need to supply you with more options than just front-loading your sentences with the principle of populated prose. I need to give you some tools for varying sentence rhythm. The cleft sentence is one major way that writers use natural sentence rhythm to get their readers raising their mental voices in the right places. Cleft here means split in two. There are three cleft formations: the it cleft, the what cleft, and the there transformation. Though lovers of populated prose will howl, each of these is a great way of manipulating sentence rhythm to good effect. Let's look at them one at a time. It cleft sentences follow forward from it is or it was, putting stress on the predicate. As I read these, listen for where the stress goes. It is tempting to think of the tiny pathogens that produce such diseases as malaria, dysentery, TB, cholera, staph, and strep as malevolent little beasts out to destroy higher forms of life. In fact, all they're trying to do is survive and reproduce, just as we are. Human suffering and death are merely unfortunate byproducts. It is by killing individual cells in the body's all-important immune system that the AIDS virus wreaks its terrible havoc. The virus itself isn't deadly, but it leaves the body defenseless against all sorts of diseases that are. But it is also the cancer patient who is made culpable. You'll notice that these writers don't put cleft sentences back to back. They vary their prose with different styles of sentences. The what cleft really works the power of end focus by dragging the reader's attention to the end of the sentence. Take a look at these examples. What Barbara wrecked was her motorcycle. What caused the accident was a branch lying across the road. What reduced visibility to zero was the thick fog. What Bazin described in his passages concerning decoupage or shot breakdown is a system of conventions which pass unnoticed, leading us to the acceptance of a certain order of things. You could easily rewrite these sentences using et cleft structures. Take a look at the second one. It was a branch lying across the road that caused the accident. Can you sense the difference in emphasis? The there transformation puts tons of focus in the middle of sentences, or on what would normally be the subject position. Check out these examples. There's a stranger standing on the porch. There were no tickets available this morning. Or consider some examples taken from academic prose. There is a vast literature on the effects of caffeine on the body, and for every study reaching one conclusion, seemingly there is another that contradicts it. There are some indications that the poor and working classes tuned in more than those higher on the socioeconomic ladder. There were, of course, those who dissented from this vision of a providential plan, stretching back to Eden and forward to its recovery in America. The principle of populated prose and the manipulation of end focus may seem opposed, but they are actually two different tools to help you maintain your reader's focus. Grammar is about do's and don'ts. Style is about choice. As you review what you've written, always read your work out loud, and when you're done, ask yourself some questions. Am I being as concrete as I can be? Have I selected a strong verb in my predicate? Note that this doesn't mean a strong verb as the head word in your predicate. Do my cleft sentences clarify my meaning using sentence rhythm? Do I vary my sentence rhythms and structures? Am I constructing sentences with a stylistic purpose? For this lesson's assignment, you will write 20 original sentences. For part 1, write 10 sentences using the principles of populated prose. Underline the subject and make the predicate bold. The subject must be either human or concrete. The predicate must be a strong verb. No is, was, or has. For part 2, write 10 sentences using the cleft formations I outlined. Use the it cleft, the what cleft, and the there transformation at least once in this part, and be certain that the predicate half of the sentence is rhythmically strong. In our next lesson on clauses and coordination, we'll leave the realm of stylistic choice and return to the grammatical realm of do's and don'ts. Good luck!